When you think of the numbers 2, 3, you think of greatness.
LeBron James, a shot at history.
In addition to elite teammates.
Alley-oop for Jordan.
And of course, most importantly of all, you think of championships. So today, we're gonna let 123 take the place of another, with Michael Jordan going #1 in the 2003 draft. And in his first season, Mike would live beyond the hype, winning Rookie of the Year, almost averaging 30 points. I'm not gonna say it means anything, but Mike's Rookie of the Year, it was a lot better than LeBron's. But as far as the playoffs go, MJ's first 3 seasons would be much worse than LeBron's, missing them every year. But don't you worry about it, because in the 2007 season, Michael Jordan would do what he does best and verbally abuse all his teammates. And while some Cavs players feared for their lives, for others, this actually worked, and this team went 54-28, finishing as a 1 seed. Mike, he's turning the franchise around. And despite LeBron making it to the playoffs a year sooner than Jordan, it didn't matter. Mike would continue to turn this franchise around. As in his first ever playoff series, he would sweep the Raptors, and then in round 2, he would battle Gilbert Arenas to a Game 7, but come out on top, meaning that in his first ever playoff series, Mike would be making the Eastern Conference Finals, where he would play the Atlanta Hawks. But this dynamic duo of Josh Smith and Joe Johnson would begin to dismantle the Cavaliers, taking a 3-0 lead. Uh-oh, this is bad. And while Jordan wasn't going down without a fight, taking the next 2 games, he would lose the 6th in Atlanta. So despite having a phenomenal first playoff run, MJ was upset, but in the 2008 season, he would have another chance. But this time around, the Cavaliers were only an 8th seed, and in the first round against the Raptors, they would get swept. And so Michael Jordan, with his competitive nature, knew something had to change, and he would do the unthinkable, and he would go bald. So now in the 2009 season, Michael Jordan, with not a hair in sight, would dominate the league, averaging nearly 34 points and winning his first ever MVP. MJ went bald. He's got the Cavs back to a 1 seed. And so Jordan, now bald, would continue to carry the Cavaliers through the playoffs all the way to the conference finals, where they would beat the Orlando Magic, propelling a hairless Michael Jordan to a finals showdown against Carmelo Anthony and the Denver Nuggets. And though I knew this head-to-head with 2 young players was going to be competitive, I was shocked after the first 2 games. The Nuggets are up 2-0, but never fear, because Michael Jordan, you could say, took that personally, and he would go into Denver and take the next 2 games, and I started to feel a little better. Cleveland ties it up, okay, Mike? And so after tying it, Michael would take this series and run away with it, winning the next 2, dominating Carmelo Anthony and the Denver Nuggets. Mike! So now able to add both a finals MVP and a championship to his trophy case, MJ had delivered on his promise to Cleveland. So while LeBron in his first run with the Cavaliers broke a ton of records and put the league on notice, he could not deliver on winning a championship, meaning that at this point, MJ has King James beat, but soon things could change drastically with one controversial decision. But we'll get to that later, as in the 2010 season, this Cavs team would look to go back-to-back on the shoulders of Michael Jordan, finishing with a strong 52-30 record as a 3 seed in the East. And in round 1, the Cavs wouldn't have any trouble against the Orlando Magic, but in round 2, this Bulls team was just too deep, as a young, explosive Derrick Rose would take the series 4-1, sending Michael Jordan packing. MJ did his best, he won MVP, but it wasn't enough. The Cavs blow. And Mike was sick and tired of the Cavs blowing. He wished he had some support around him. So like any logical person would do in the 2010 offseason, Mike looked to go towards a franchise with more talent, signing with the Miami Heat, where he would link up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And unlike LeBron's first departure from Cleveland, Cavs fans were grateful for Michael Jordan and what he did.
And he brought us a championship, which we haven't had since 1964.
So as Mike began his time with the Miami Heat, it was clear that his roster had drastically improved, as this team would finish with one of the best records ever, going 71-11, of course claiming the 1 seed in the East. And in addition to that, his right-hand man Dwayne Wade would win MVP. It's a good sign for the Miami Heat. And it seemed like things would keep getting better for the Miami Heat, all until round 1 of these playoffs, when the Milwaukee Bucks came to play. How were they down down 3-2. What? But MJ, you could say,
Took offense to that.
and as a result, he smacked the Bucks in Game 6. But in Game 7, it came down to the wire until Luka Mbamute decided to be a dumbass. Bucks ball, it's a 2-point game, Miami leads. This is a Game 7. Oh my God! And so after surviving a Game 7 scare against the Bucks, MJ would go on to steamroll the Hawks in round 2, advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, facing MJ's team in an alternate universe, the Chicago Bulls. And though the Heat had a stacked roster, the Bulls having prime Derrick Rose was a handful, as this series would start off competitively with the Bulls actually taking the first, and then the Heat, and then the Bulls, and then the Heat. So with this series even at 2 apiece, you would think Michael Jordan would be the X factor to take this thing home. But the complete opposite would end up happening, as Derrick Rose would dominate in Game 5, and then in Game 6, it started to look hopeless for Miami. I don't think it's gonna happen, man. He's gonna get upset. And so Jordan in this Miami Big Three would get upset, catching a variety of media criticism, calling into question MJ's character on how good of a teammate he really was. And just to keep a long story short, this was the start of the Miami Heat's downfall. You see, from 2011 to 2014, MJ would win 3 more MVPs. But aside from that, in 2012, the Miami Heat would get upset in round 2 as a 1 seed, followed by the 2013 season where the Heat would make it to the NBA Finals and they would get swept. You would have thought they would have won a ring by now, giving MJ one final shot to make things work in 2014, where this team would get a 65-17 record, but they would also get upset in round 1. Pretty disappointing. Really upsetting, actually. So compared to LeBron after his time with the Heat, MJ was lacking, as King James would have claimed 2 championships at this point, and MJ, well, he just had 1. As despite winning 3 consecutive MVPs in Miami, it didn't seem like MJ was compatible with other superstars. So before the 2015 season, he would make his return to Cleveland, the team which he won his first championship with.
The 4-time NBA MVP will return to the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he began his career.
And Mike would be back like he never left, winning yet another MVP, making it his 5th. I don't know how he keeps doing it. And because the Eastern Conference blows at this point, Kyrie and Mike wouldn't have any trouble from here on out, making it all the way to the NBA Finals, teeing up for an intense series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who of course had Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. And this series started off competitively in Cleveland, as both teams would take 1 game, meaning the Cavs lost home court advantage. But it didn't matter, as the series was taken to Oklahoma City, MJ got 1 back, taking a 2-1 series lead, putting the Cavaliers in the driver's seat, all until the Thunder started to come back, tying the series up at 2 apiece, and then even taking the next one. Oh no, bro. MJ's down 3-2. He might just have the LeBron curse. And to no surprise, in Game 6, the Thunder would close things out, taking the series 4-2, making me wonder if MJ really did have the same curse as LeBron, as he only got 1 championship in his 3 finals appearances. And on top of that, dusty-ass Nick Collison was talking shit. Nick Collison, leave him alone! But Jordan, of course, rubbed it off and looked ahead to the 2016 season, where he and Kyrie would once again control the pathetic Eastern Conference, finishing with a 69-13 record, of course, as a 1 seed. And I don't even have to talk about their playoff run, as of course they would blow through the East. And MJ and Jimmy Butler would even have a father-son reunion. And looking ahead to the finals, we would of course have a finals rematch against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But knowing Michael Jordan, he's not gonna lose 2 times in a row, and no need to waste time. He would get this series done and claim his 2nd championship with a 4-2 victory. And with Jordan adding a 2nd championship to his trophy case, he didn't have much time to celebrate, as the big bad snake would make his infamous move out west to the Golden State Warriors.
How you gonna stop the best team in the NBA? You got any pride?
And from 2016 to 2018, I wish I had an underdog story to tell about MJ, but Kevin Durant and the Dubs would run the league, with MJ even facing them in the finals in back-to-back years. But of course, he would lose both times, and after that, he would look to go somewhere else, a team where he could attract some better teammates, like the Los Angeles Lakers. And so in Mike's first season with the Lakers, their roster wasn't totally revamped yet, meaning they they would go 30-52 and miss the playoffs. But in the 2020 season, with the acquisition of Anthony Davis, MJ would be back to MVP form, winning his 7th MVP trophy and of course getting the Lakers to the playoffs as a 2 seed. But before we proceed with these playoffs, let me just acknowledge that Michael Jordan right now only has 2 championships, and LeBron at this point only has 3 of his 4 championships. So with Mike having the chance to either tie this or stay behind LeBron, you'd be delusional to think he wouldn't go out and win a chip, blowing by rounds 1, 2, and 3, playing Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks in the finals and easily beating them with a gentleman's sweep. And so adding his 3rd trophy to the collection, Michael Jordan was excited, but not for long, because LeBron in this same season also won a championship, making that his 4th, meaning MJ only has 3 seasons to either tie this thing up or take the lead. And so in the 2021 season, things would look good. They would finish 67-15 as a 1 seed, but they would lose round 1. And MJ, pissed off about the missed opportunity last year, would go into the 2022 season and of course win another MVP, getting the Lakers back to the playoffs as a 1 seed yet again. And as you know, no team in the West stood any chance, and they would blow right through to the finals to play Joel Embiid and the Sixers, a fairly young team with 2 promising players. And this series was very competitive, with the Sixers even having a 3-2 lead, which MJ had to claw the Lakers back from, setting us up for a Game 7, which would either leave MJ 1 chip behind LeBron or tie him. Hold on to something and tell your wife you love her. But because this Game 7 would take place in Los Angeles, the Sixers never really had a chance, in addition to MJ and AD being on fire, meaning Jordan would successfully claim his 4th championship, finally tying with LeBron, leaving us with just 1 more season left to see if MJ could even pass LeBron. But again, to make a long story short, this was MJ's 20th year in the league. He was getting to the point where he could play a full season, but come playoff time, it was just too much stress on his body. Nonetheless, leading the Lakers to the Western Conference Finals, but losing in 6 games to the New Orleans Pelicans. So when it comes to the GOAT conversation, are these 2 just tied? Or is this just a stupid YouTube video made for entertainment that we shouldn't base off reality? Either way, I think we should look at Michael Jordan and LeBron and just appreciate them for what they are instead of comparing them all the time. But before we do that, let's look at the individual greatness of a point guard, Russell Westbrook. Ask yourself what would happen if we replaced him with Ja Morant, a player with identical play style. Would he also go without a championship, or would he build a dynasty? There's only one way to find out, and that's by clicking on the center of the screen.